Consider the great distress Mary must have felt. On a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, she had lost the child Jesus. Her 12-year-old son was lost and alone in an unfamiliar city. What sorrow must have pierced her maternal heart? What anxious thoughts must have raced through her mind? And to have lost not just her own beloved son, but the Son of God. Yet, after 3 days of searching, this sorrow was countered by the joy of finding him in the temple. Jesus questioned her gently, "Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" Many years later, Mary again lost her son in Jerusalem. When he offered his life on the cross, her heart was again pierced with sorrow. Yet, on the third day, Jesus rose from the dead. Mary's sorrow was overcome by the joy of her son's resurrection. What are we to learn from Mary's experiences of sorrow turned to joy? Is it simply the drama of a mother recovering a lost child? No, there is much more here, because Jesus' every act has significance for our salvation. He remained in the temple not as a wayward child, but to be in his Father's house. Jesus reminds us that God is a loving Father, our Father. By looking to Mary, we also see the model of perfect faith. Her anxiety is understandable, yet this does not lessen her unshakable faith in God. She knows that God's providential care always guides us through sorrow into joy. He never abandons us to meaningless suffering. As Catholics, we neither deny the reality of suffering, nor do we try to just ignore it. Rather, like Mary, we remain faithful to God in the midst of suffering. In the spiritual life, we can often experience suffering and joy at the same time. Suffering is real, but it does not have the final word. God is with us, even in the midst of suffering. Christ's passion assures us of this. Suffering is worst when we choose to suffer apart from God. But by offering up our daily trials in union with Christ's suffering, our suffering becomes meaningful, even salvific. This union is most profound when we receive Jesus in the Eucharist. In faith, we look past the appearances of bread and wine and see Christ's body and blood. In hope, we look past the sorrows of today and see God's providence. In love, we imitate Mary's perfect trust in God and experience true joy.